Alright guys, so this is the screencast for our notes on what it means to be a citizen in the United States, what our rights, duties, and responsibilities are. Just to recap where we have been, okay, we started our unit talking about the traits of a good citizen, how those traits are embodied, what we look for when immigrants come to our country, and the process they go through, the naturalization process. Alright, and now we're going to talk about what it means to be a U.S. citizen in terms of if you were born here or if you actually went through the naturalization process, what our rights and responsibilities are as U.S. citizens. Okay, so first thing you're probably asking are what are rights, what are responsibilities, and what are duties? Okay, what do they all mean? Here's a definition for each that you should be putting down in your foldable near the bottom. Okay, a duty is something that a citizen has to do. Okay, the main thing you need to write right above where you put duty on your foldable, okay, is that it is mandatory. It's mandatory, which means it's something you have to do. All right, and later in this PowerPoint, I'm going to talk to you guys about what happens if you do not follow one of your duties. Okay, the next thing are our responsibilities, and these are something a citizen should do. They are voluntary. Okay, this means that it's something we should do, just like community service or when we volunteer to help somebody. Okay, it's not something you absolutely have to do, but you should do it, and it's something good, makes you feel warm inside. All right, and the last thing, but the thing we're going to talk about first are our rights. And a good way to think about rights, it's what citizens are allowed or owed by law. Okay, and what we'll be talking mainly in this one are constitutional rights. Rights that come from our Constitution, which is seen or is, in fact, the highest law in our country. All right, so what are some rights? So if you flip open your flap, we should already have set up the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment in that flap. All right, and so our First Amendment is the one that grants us some of our most cherished rights as U.S. citizens. Okay, and the way you should have it written down is RAPS. This is our acronym to help us remember what our rights are under the First Amendment. Okay, so for the R, we first need to put religion. All right, under the First Amendment, we have freedom of religion, which means we get to practice and worship in whatever way we want to. Okay, without infringing on the religious rights of others. Second is assembly. We have the right to peacefully come together to protest our government or protest business and for causes that we hold really dear to our hearts. Next is press. If you want to write next to press, you can also put newspapers, books. Okay, that's what we mean by press. And in the slide after this, there's going to be some pictures to hopefully help you guys understand all this. Our second P is petition. All right. At this point right now, I would like you to pause the video and ask me where the petition in our classroom is. Okay, I should have everyone in class asking me right now where the petitions are. Lastly, we have speech. Okay, that we have the right to say and express ourselves. If you want to add next to speech, okay, put a slash mark and express. The next slide, all right. Our First Amendment, I'm going to give you a little bit more examples for each of these. Okay, so first is religion, right? If you look, there's the earth. We have all of our many of the main religions of the world. Christianity, Judaism, as today is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. We have the Star of Islam, and then we have a couple other synonyms for Hinduism and Buddhism, and all the other major religions of the world. Okay, in the United States, everybody has the right to practice their own religion. There's no one religion that everybody has to follow. Next is freedom to assemble. Okay, whenever you see people marching, if you've ever gone into D.C., sometimes outside the White House, there are people outside protesting peacefully about issues that they care about or things that they disagree with the president, and we are allowed to do that to help show the government where we stand whenever they do something. Okay. And the other form that we do that is a petition. Okay, some of you are running for SCA office. You have to get a petition to show that you have the support of fellow students to run. Okay, and in our class, you guys have the possibility now of petitioning me for things that you'd like to see changed. All right, you have to write out what your issue is in class. You have to get other students in class to agree to it. As kind of the president of the class. All the rules that you guys might want to have, new rules you'd like to have, you can petition, but I ultimately have the right to say no to them. Okay. Next is press. Okay, this is newspapers, and like I said before, also books. And lastly is freedom of speech. And the big thing that you want to put next to freedom of speech is expression, because freedom of speech isn't necessarily just what we say, but it's how we express ourselves, from what we wear on our clothing, okay? And kind of when we do art and things like that, that's a form of expression. So freedom of speech also touches on freedom of expression, how we express ourselves. Our next amendment, okay? So that's our First Amendment. Flipping back real quick, okay? First Amendment. Now we're going to go to the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment gives us two things, okay? It grants us due process at the federal, and whenever we see the word federal, we need to think national, okay? The whole entire United States, we have due process. And now you might be wondering what due process is, and we're going to get to it on our next slide, all right? The other thing that we need to put for the Fifth Amendment, it states we cannot testify against ourselves in a court of law, all right? And so what I want to see everybody doing in class right now, hold up your hand so you have all 5 fingers out, and then I want you to cover your mouth. Because that's one way that we're going to hopefully remember the Fifth Amendment, okay? Is that we cannot testify because we have all 5 fingers over our mouth, which you should all be doing right now as you're listening to this. You cannot say anything in a court of law that'll prove yourself guilty, okay? Now, okay, boom, just hesitate, it just went again, okay? Boom, it says cannot testify. And boom, grants due process at the federal or national level. All right, wait, you guys were thinking, what is due process? What is this word that Mr. Grant's telling us about, okay? Due process is the legal requirement that the state, okay, and when we use the word state, we mean government, must respect all your rights, okay? The government must respect all your rights, okay, granted to you in the Constitution, right? And there's just kind of a funny thing, but this would be a violation of due process because we as people, as U.S. citizens, have the right to a trial by our peers, okay? So the next amendment that we're going to talk about is the 14th, and it's going to do 3 things for us, okay? First, it's going to grant us due process at the state level, all right? It means that our individual states also have to respect our rights, okay? Second, it's going to grant us and give everybody equal protection under the law regardless of our race, religion, or gender, okay? The 14th Amendment, if you remember back to last year, was passed was a Reconstruction Amendment, and so this was an amendment that was passed to help, sorry for the pause, but it was meant to help guarantee that slaves didn't have their rights revoked. Okay, former slaves didn't have their new freedoms after the Civil War taken away from them. So that's why we have this phrase, number 2. If you want to write next to number 2 a little arrow that says Equal Protection Clause. And if you want to rewind that, I'm going to say it again. Number 2 is known as the Equal Protection Clause. That no matter what our race is, what our religion is, or if we're male or female, that we have all of our rights still secured to us. And the third one, which is what we've been talking about with the naturalization process, is that the 14th Amendment defines citizenship as we get it through birth or the naturalization process, which ends with us taking an oath. So, I'm going to ask you guys a quick question that you need to put next to your First Amendment, all right? Are all these freedoms absolute? Are we guaranteed? Can we say whatever we want to anybody without any consequence? Okay, take a quick second to think about it. Shake your head yes or no. I'll be looking around the room to see if you're doing that. Okay, you guys should all be saying no. Okay, we cannot say or do whatever we want without consequence. Our amendments are our freedoms are limited. Okay, our freedoms are limited to an extent. If we lie about somebody, we can face consequences. All right, so that's our amendment section. Now you need to flip over, and we're going to touch on our duties. You can giggle a little bit at it. Okay, Mr. Grant said duties. All right, we have 5 duties. Okay, and these are required or mandatory actions of every citizen. First, we have to obey the laws. Okay, we have to follow the laws of our country. We have to follow the speed limit. We have to pay our taxes, okay? That's our second one. Our third one is that we have to serve on a jury or serve as a witness if we are called to court. Our fourth one, which applies to you guys, you have to attend school. Okay, you have to attend school. It is a duty. We want a smart group of kids. We want smart citizens. And our last one is that if you are drafted, we have not had a draft since Vietnam. Okay, but if there was another draft and your name was called, you would be asked to serve. All right. So what you might be asking is, what happens if I don't do a duty? There are two things. First, you either pay a fine. Okay, so think of this kind of as if you were a parent, or Mr. Grant or Mr. Lunsford breaks a law like speeding. Okay, we have to pay a ticket. We pay a ticket, which is a fine. All right, or we go to jail. Okay, we do not pass go. We do not collect $200. You go to jail. All right. So Al Capone, very famous person, he did not pay his taxes. So what happened to him? He went to jail. All right. And our last is our responsibilities. Now this triangle is going to fill up really quick, but okay, these are all of our responsibilities. Okay. We hold elected office. That's what very few people do. But the most important one, the two that you need to have written in this triangle, okay, is that support the common good is what is expected from every citizen, okay? And then we are also, okay, expected to register and vote. Those are our two main responsibilities, okay? These other ones, okay, if you want to take a look a second, see what each one says, okay? We have the right to be informed on issues. This is why we do current events. Volunteer to help, why we have service learning. We need to respect others' rights, okay? We petition and we can assemble, okay? That's communicating with officials. We do that through petition. And then when we participate in campaigns, that's us assembling, all right? And then a very select few people feel as though that they should run for office to help keep our country safe and secure, okay? So that's this PowerPoint, okay? If at any point you didn't catch something, you can go rewind, replay it, okay? If you have questions, raise your hand. But hopefully the little hand thing with the Fifth Amendment will help you, and hopefully during class I'll try and give you guys another way of remembering the First Amendment. When you finish this, come ask me what you need to do next and go from there. Great job, guys.